One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm standing at the crossroads. I'm feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Don't let it get the most of me. Eventually, I'm gonna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them take them chains off me and throw away the locks and keys. If they would just let me be, eventually I'm gonna be free.
They're back.
What up, though? What up, though? 7 more days, and we're back again for another interesting story on the Diamond Effect. I'm Archbishop. We got Mike Ball, and we got Aaron Nolinger. What up, everybody? Like I said, just like always, before we get started, we always check and see what everybody done over the week. So we'll start with you, Aaron. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Had a karate tournament I went and vended at this past weekend. I've got a gun and knife show this coming weekend, but like I told you and Mike before the show, I'm running into problems obtaining merchandise because the tariffs, the boats are not unloading. So I'm just going to warn people, if you want to have something, you better be getting it now while the price is low and while it's still available. If you wait too long, you're going to see much higher prices here shortly, and you're going to see a lot of shortages. So take advantage of the times that we're in right now where your money can stretch and get out there and make it count. But now if you can afford to do without something, you can sacrifice, then hold on to your money as long as you can. And I'll stop there.
What's up with you, Mike?
With the last week, it's been actually really chill for me. I was like, man, I'm going to take a seat back a little bit on like the super activities on everything. I've been a basic YouTuber. I've been doing my thing on YouTube, obviously in the mornings. And it's been an obvious, interesting week, especially with the topic that we're talking about now. This is something I have reported on. So it's going to be an interesting one for damn sure.
Well, the same old, same old. Working like always. I just got back here Sunday. I was in Ohio putting my brother to rest, and everything turned out good. It was good to, under the circumstances, it was good to see my family. I don't get to Ohio as much as I would like, from running around and trying to do everything else. But it was real good to be able to be up there and see my daughter and hug my mom, which was one of the things that was like the first thing I wanted to do when I got there was hug my mom. You know what I mean? So, but I had a good time. Like I said, it was short lived. I was only there for a couple of days, but it was a good time. But other than that, I think I was back in Florida, back to the same old grind. You know what I mean? The hustle train and pick back up. There's several things that we're working on, trying to get together. And there'll be quite a few things that we're going to be bringing up here in the next couple of weeks of stuff that we got brewing and going on. So just stay tuned. Some of this stuff's going to be pretty exciting. And it's definitely going to be something everybody's going to be able to use. But we'll have it out here in probably next 2 weeks. Probably about 2 weeks. We'll be able to fully talk about it. But one of the things I talked about last week is, if you remember, I was talking about the people that had got a hold of me wanting to redo our intro. So I told them, I said, well, if you got ideas, then send them, and we'll play them, and we'll do a vote on it, and we'll see who wins. You know what I mean? So we extend it out to everybody. And it's still not too late. If you got an idea, you want to do it, you can send it in. Make the little 30, 45 second intro video and send it in. And so the winner this week, like I said, we're going to play both, and we're going to let you vote while we're doing the show. So we're going to do number 1, number 2. So as we're going through, after you watch it, just put your vote, number 1, number 2. We're going to tally all these votes, and then the winner, we'll play it at the end of the show. And then at that point, that person stands opposed until somebody else comes in and say that they got one better, and then we'll run it again.
I like that.
So we're gonna keep this little competition going just to see how much y'all pay attention and what you're interested in. Like I said, because without you guys, then there's no point in us doing this show if it ain't for you guys. So
True.
Keep it open and try to put some fresh ideas out. New stuff, and actually it'd be a big help for real. So we're gonna go number 1, number 2, and we'll start number 1 first.
All right, let's run it.
I want to know, because that don't make sense. Why would you do it to your friends and not them two right there? But when we talking about this, we got to put it all out there this time. What up, though?
Okay, that was number 1. I'm going to play number 2. That last part scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, so we got so those were the first two that we got in. So for you ones watching, put in your vote. Number 1, number 2. And then we're gonna calculate them as they come down, and then the winner, like I said, we'll play it at the end when we close, and then like I said, we're gonna put it out there for everybody else. If you got one that you want to do, get with us, make it, send it to us, and you'll go against the winner tonight until we get an overall winner. Then that overall winner will become our next intro. Like I said, one or two. So this so this story that we're gonna jump into now, mind you, I know that it's gonna be a lot of opinions on this based on a number of reasons. Okay. And by no means are we going to be on here advocating for either one. We're not lawyers. Okay. We're just putting out what we know. Okay. Now, a lot of the stuff that we've uncovered, some things you know about, some things you didn't. Some things were hidden. Some things were, how can you say, maybe they just not thought it was important to bring up. But I'm a firm believer of, if you're going to make a decision on something, at least you should know all the facts.
True.
Before making a decision on anything. So what I'm gonna do is I got a quick little 25-second little video, and then we're gonna jump right into this. Okay.
Perfect.
Now to an update on the Maryland man mistakenly deported to a notorious mega prison in El Salvador. The Trump administration filing their first status report to a federal judge. An official with the State Department declaring in a sworn statement that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is in that prison and that he is alive and secure. A federal judge ordering the White House to return Garcia back to the U.S.
Okay. So what we have here is a gentleman by the name of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And he was deported from Maryland and was sent to an Salvadorian prison roughly 21 days ago. Now, a lot of people say, okay, why are we talking about this one in particular person? Well, the reason why we're talking about it is because, according to what we're hearing, is that he was taken unjustly. He never should have been taken in the first place. So, but here's what we know about him so far. So we know that he came into the U.S. Illegally back in 2011. And the reason for him coming here was that back in El Salvador during that time, there was a lot of different gangs there. And him, along with his family, was actually being persecuted by these gangs. His older brother, Caesar, was sent to America first, and he obtained his citizenship in America. Later on, Abrego was sent to America as well. Now, I think it started with him back when he was 12. They were these different gangs wanted him to be in either one of these gangs or whatever, and they were threatening the family, threatening the sisters, to the point that his parents had to basically shut down their business and do what they needed to do to get their kids safe. So he ends up in the U.S. In Maryland. Now, one of the things that was messed up from the beginning is that, a lot of people know that if you come into this country illegally, of course you have, especially with something dealing with like gang violence, war, stuff like that, you have to apply for asylum. And you have 1 year from the time that you come here to be able to apply for that, which he did not. So it wasn't until 8 years later
Mhm.
is when he was picked up in front of a Home Depot with two other gentlemen. They were out there looking for work, and I don't know about in Maryland, but I know here in Florida they have a lot of places where you have people just wait there. The truck will pull up and say, "Hey, I need 5 guys." 5 guys jump in the truck, they take off and work. So that's what they were doing, and the authorities seen them, approached them. They didn't have the proper documentation, and they were picked up. During that, this immigration the immigration judge later granted him permanent legal protection from deportation on the grounds that he may be at risk of persecution from the gangs in El Salvador.
Whether he was a part of MS-13 or not. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Right. Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because they were one of the other guys that had been picked up that day. He was the one who told the authorities that this guy was MS-13, basically. So they've been saying a confidential informant or whatever. Really wasn't an informant. He just got picked up right along with him. So he was. So I don't know what the whole scoop is with that. I don't know whether it was, whether he was an actual CI or whether maybe he had a warrant trying to get out of something. I don't know. I don't know how that is. I'm not even trying to figure it out. But that's when it was said. Now, based on what I found here, the federal judge presiding over the case said that Garcia had 0 criminal history in the U.S. or El Salvador, and the so-called gang ties was how he pronounced it, was a singular, unsubstantial allegation. So they had no proof, just the word of someone who said that this guy was MS-13. So what he was granted with, he didn't get asylum, but what he did get was called withholding, which means he was protected under the government. He could work legally. He could move around. He was married to an American citizen. They have 3 children. And but with that withholding, it was set up to where if you get in trouble during this time, then they can send you back. So what we have going on, though, is that he was picked up and sent from Maryland to Louisiana, put on a plane, shipped to El Salvador, along with 199 other Venezuelans that were actually a part of MS-13, and put into a maximum security prison. There has been situations where his legal team has petitioned the courts saying that he was illegally obtained, did not go through due process, and he was shipped out, which an order was given for him to return. But by that time, it was like, oops, he already gone. He's in El Salvador now. And so now we got the back and forth that's going on. So before we keep going on into this, Aaron, I know you got a little history dealing with MS-13, the actual gang itself. So I'm gonna let you start with that, and then Mike, I want you to jump in with yours right after that.
Okay. From what I was able to research, MS-13 has been classified a terrorist organization. They said they represent a clear and present danger here inside the United States. Activities that they participate in is human sex trafficking, drug trafficking. They, in their present country, they rape and beat women for control purposes. They terrorize them. They do what they call murder for sport, which that was the first time I've ever heard that classification. And then they like to terrorize law-abiding citizens. Now, on February 6th of 2025, under public notice 12675, it designated MS-13 and other similar like organizations a foreign terrorist threat. So that's what I have, and that classification was given to them just recently. So any gang members that's listed as a foreign terrorist threat, as an elderly person, I don't feel that they should be here. I have fear for the future, for my daughter, for the safety of my grandchildren. I do not want violence that's happening in Colombia, Mexico, Venezuela, places of that nature, or the beheadings and stuff. I don't want to see that on American streets. I like the peace that we have. It's not perfect, but there's no other place in this world I'd rather live than right here in the United States. So I'll stop right there.
Okay, so real quick, something that I'm going to read straight from the Associated Press. Okay, so a local gang began extorting the family for rent money. This is back in when he was a kid, when he was 12 years old. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, back in his home country. Began extorting the family for rent money and threatening to kill his older brother Caesar or force him into their gang if they weren't paid. Court documents state the family complied, but eventually sent Caesar to the U.S. So his brother was sent to the U.S. to try to escape the gang shit right there. So the local gang similarly targeted Abrego Garcia, according to his immigration case. When he was 12, the gang threatened to take him away until his father paid them, quote, all of the money that they wanted. They still watched him as he walked to and from school. The family moved 10 minutes away, but the gang threatened to rape and kill Abrego Garcia's sisters, court records state. The family shut down the business, moved again, and eventually sent Abrego Garcia to the U.S. So when it comes to this, he was a kid when he did come over here, and this is something that I did my due diligence on, and I saw a lot of people in my own chat basically state while I was reporting this that this guy has had like 2 previous deportation orders or whatever the case is. Truth is, I can't find that. There's a lot to this case. Makes it kind of interesting because, he was a young kid when he did flee to America, 15 years old or wherever the case was. And at 15 years old, I don't think I'd expect anyone to like go down to the asylum office and like start knowing exactly how to handle that shit. So I kind of give a little bit of grace there. What I also don't have proof of is dude being a part of MS-13. That's something that I thought that was a definite, but it is not a definite. The one thing that it does state is it was a confidential informant that basically stated that his attire was gang related and basically labeled him as a Chicano, which is like a type level rank within the organization. And unfortunately, I don't have any proof that the dude was. Now, the one thing that I do have is his old lady, the same lady that's been crying on the news regarding her husband or whatever the case is, or boy. I don't even know if they're married. I'm not even truth. I don't know the honest truth on that. But she actually put in a protection order against him twice for domestic violence. And so that's something that is an interesting take. Now, I don't necessarily know how all of that worked out or what even happened to get to that point. I'm just telling you guys the facts. So That's my transparency on that.
Okay. So
Could I?
go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to add, because as a parent, my heart goes out to the boy's parents to see that there was trouble in his country and they tried to get their kids out of danger. I mean, any parent, even here in the United States, if your children are having trouble in a specific neighborhood, a lot of people will pick up and move and go somewhere else and try to start over. And that's a very difficult task. And if you're going to leave the country and go to a strange country you've never been into, my heart goes out to them. I mean, they went the extra mile here to try to raise their children in a safe environment. But then I'm also have concerns with them trying to label him MS-13 because I couldn't find solid evidence either. I'm wondering, was he a hangaround? Was he just someone that hung out with some of the guys? And because of that, they pointed their finger at him and said, well, he's got to be MS-13. I mean, we have hangarounds on the motorcycle scene, and they're not members of an organization. They just like coming out and hanging out and fellowshipping with people. So, I'm uncomfortable with this subject because I can't find solid evidence. So I don't want to slander the guy's name any kind of way, but I'm gonna stop there.
Okay. So with the two domestics, from my understanding, that they were both dismissed.
They were.
Because one of the things that they're talking about now is that he had zero criminal record here in the U.S. and he didn't have a criminal record in El Salvador either. So which is kind of like the point that I'm trying to make on this. Judge Enos, who's the federal judge, ordered that Mr. Garcia was taken illegally. Ordered that the government facilitate and effectuate his return by April 7th, which did not take place. Now, the Trump administration appealed against the ruling of the federal judge to the Supreme Court. The judges ruled unanimously that the Trump administration must facilitate his return while asking the district court to clarify its effective directives. Basically saying like, okay, like what exactly did you mean by that?
Okay.
Now, when they had the actual meeting, when they was talking about facilitating his return, then you had Pam Bondi was like, oh, well, that just means that if El Salvador releases him, then we will provide a plane to get him back over here. My problem with that is that so you had the first ruling, which he was already gone at that point. By the time they made that ruling, he was already gone. Actually, there was two rulings, because there was one, if you remember, there was one that was done that was trying to keep everybody here at one point. And then they was like, oh, nope, too bad, they're already gone. Then this one came up individually, just talking about Mr. Garcia. And they was like, okay, well, still, same thing. Oops, he's gone. He's over there. So then it went from this spot to the Supreme Court, and then they got the ruling from the Supreme Court, which is actually 9-0 in favor of, the administration facilitating this order and getting back over here. Now,
do they even have jurisdiction though to do that?
Well,
federal judges to talk about foreign policy or tell foreign policy what has to happen?
well,
I don't
see,
even think that's in their jurisdiction.
Well, see, that's the whole thing. When you're dealing with the 3 points of government, which you got executive, judicial, and
Sure.
and executive, they all kind of go hand in hand with each other. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't sit here and speak on that and say, well, they got such and such presidents, this is this.
Sure.
I have no clue. You know what I mean? Although You know what I mean? I defend a lot of things, and this ain't one of them.
Sure.
So you had the Salvadorian president who was here, who's been here for a few days, and they had a little conference where they were talking about Mr. Garcia and bringing him back over here. And of course, you know, he said, "Well, what do I look like bringing a terrorist back, letting them loose? What do I look like doing that? You know, I just got my country from where it was the murder capital of the world to now it's not. You know what I mean? What do I look like releasing a terrorist into the street?" But the thing is, there's no proof going to that. You have no proof saying that this man was a terrorist. You have no proof saying that this man was even in MS-13. So my question is how is this keeps getting misconstrued here? You know what I mean? Is it like, okay, you really just don't have that information? Or is it that you trying to cover up the fuck up that you did instead of just fixing it? You know what I mean? Which kind of seems like that's what a lot has been going on these days. Like instead of just fixing the problem, man up to what's going on and fix the problem, you take extra steps to bullshit your way through it. You know what I mean? You still don't have no proof on this man. You still got this man sitting in prison. Now, they went back to court yesterday for the same thing. And then the judge came through with another set of orders that had to be done. You had like a 2-week period that, you know, XYZ had to be done in order, you know, to be satisfied by the courts. And, you know, I mean, I'm pretty sure that one of them has to be to get this man back across the water, which you keep playing this little cat and mouse game. This keeps going back and forth here. You know what I mean? And like I said, why everybody's playing cat and mouse and sitting here, you know, you making this person out to be this notorious gang member and blah, 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 blah. And that's based on what we found. We don't see that. So what's the problem? Why are we keeping this man here? So I'm going to play, I'm going to play one video here. Actually, there's two. I'm going to play one and then I'm going to jump right into the other one. Okay?
Cool.
Probably like 2 minutes. And then we'll jump back into this conversation.
President Donald Trump says that he wants to deport American citizens convicted of crimes.
He says it will help the prison population and save money. But there are questions about whether this is even legal. Perry Russell with more in Washington.
In a live stream broadcast from inside the Oval Office, President Trump can be heard telling El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele he wants to send American citizens convicted of crimes to prison in El Salvador, as Trump calls them homegrowns.
I said, homegrowns are next. The homegrowns built. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's fair. All right. It's not big enough.
Bukele has taken in hundreds of migrants deported from the U.S. accused of being gang members, sending them here to this mega prison called SECOD in exchange for millions of dollars. Trump mentioning the idea again minutes later to reporters as he sat down with his cabinet, including Attorney General Pam Bondi.
To Pam, I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country.
Trump says it would help with America's prison population. According to the Department of Justice, in 2022, there were more than 1.2 million people in prisons in the U.S. Trump's call to deport American criminals opens a trove of legal questions. Ultimately, whether Americans can be kicked out of their own country. Trump says sending criminals to El Salvador would save the U.S. money with what he calls great security.
We have a huge number of prisons, and then we have the private prisons, and some are operated well, I guess, and some aren't. But he does a great job with that. We have others that we're negotiating with too. But no, if it's If it's a homegrown criminal, I have no problem.
In a new interview with Fox Noticias, Trump is repeating calls to deport American criminals, saying we are looking into it and we want to do it. I would love to do that. Perry Russell, ABC News, Washington.
Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, suppose you're not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right? How can I return him to the United States? Like I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you can release him inside of Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing. I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world to the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Okay, so I played 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's your thoughts?
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay.
Either one.
Again, I don't know if this guy's really guilty. If he's actually an MS-13 member, I say get him up out of here. If he's a hang around, and because they say birds of a feather flock together, I mean, if he was seen hanging out with known gang members, anybody seeing that don't know the situation would automatically assume he's a part of it. So he's going to have to take responsibility for the crowd he's hanging with, if that's the reason why he got picked up. But if he's innocent, I hope he can beat the rap. I don't know enough about this man to draw a conclusion either way. But again, as an elderly person, I want our streets to be safe to walk up and down. I want my children and my grandchildren to be safe on these American streets. I don't want foreign gangs in here doing animal acts against decent people. I don't want to see that at all. And I'll stop there.
Yeah, when it comes to this president of El Salvador, he's hardcore against gangs. As you guys know, it's a damning task to go ahead and try to turn the murder capital of the world to the safest, country in the Western Hemisphere, as claimed, right? And that's because of his hard stance on these gangs. Here's what I have to say on this. If dude was actually a part of it, lock him up, throw away the key. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? But if dude was not a part of it, which we don't have any evidence of, aside from a confidential informant that says that he was wearing gang attire, which was just clothing, and like an actual sports team hat. To me, that's not enough evidence. There's multiple facets here. Now, one question I do have to kind of ask, this is all, not really even speculation, just a speculative question, I guess. Why was the family being interrogated so much in El Salvador back when he was 12 years old? Why was his brother in an opposing gang? Was his father? Now, I don't know the answers to these. I've looked all of it up, can't find anything. The only thing that we can actually see that is against him at this point is the 2 filings against his chick put on him to have a protection order. That is it. So this, if we have a law stating that you can come into the U.S. illegally underage and somehow be legal that way and it not be illegal activity, and the dude's actually labeled a U.S. citizen, then he needs to stay here. If he is not that, and he's what I have assumed he has been, he needs to be deported and stay where he's at. But this is what we need is factual shit. We don't need to have speculation on things. And that's what's really hard is because I am not a lawyer, none of us are lawyers up here. So we're absolutely trying our best to dance around this as nicely and easy as possible.
Okay. So this is what I got out of most of this. Now, and it's not just talking about this one. There has been other reports that I've seen where they talked about where there were letters that was sent to people like, hey, you got 7 days to get out the U.S. There was a lady that was on the news just the other day. She was an actual immigration lawyer that they had sent her a letter telling her that she had 7 days to get out the U.S. And she was like, what do you mean? I'm a U.S. citizen. What do you mean I got to go? I don't got to go anywhere. But then they was like, oh, that was a mistake, being the fact that her name was on so many different documents for different stuff because she worked for immigration. But then there was another story that I read that they were talking about. Now, at first, when this whole deportation thing started, and they said at first that they were getting rid of these gangs and criminal organizations and stuff like that. They were deporting them first, and with that, I was like, absolutely, that's what that's what you need to do. Being the fact that Venezuelan opened up their prisons and let everybody come here any damn way, they just cleared house. Now, with that, I agree with. But then when they start talking about that it was people that were being deported that had no criminal record whatsoever, I paid attention to. When they started talking about people that were actually in the process of receiving their green cards that got deported, that had once again, no criminal record, stuff like that. They were, so it was like, okay, so you got these people here that was actually going through the process to become citizens, got deported. Now you got this one here. Now, a lot of this that they were talking about, they were saying that a lot of these people didn't have actual due process, which means they never actually went to court and the judge ruled and said, okay, we got to send you back. These were just people that ICE was just picking up left and right and sending them without proper due process. So you would think that if this man here would have actually went to court like he should have, then they would have seen that he was not supposed to go when he went on back to the house, as opposed to you just snatching people, throwing them on a plane and sending them out. Now, if you are just deporting someone, if he was, let's just say, for instance, that he went to court and the court says, okay, you have to be deported. You don't deport them to prison. You send them to their country and you let them go. You don't send them straight to the prison. So that was the part here that kind of makes this so iffy. You know what I mean? So suspect. It's because this one here, okay, if you just wanted to deport him, you could have deported him, sent him to El Salvador and let him go, as opposed to putting him in this particular plane where you got 199 more MS-13 members and you fly him over here and you send him straight to a prison. That's different. You know what I mean? Now, they've also been asking, because they don't even know for real whether this person is even alive. They don't even know. Now, they have somebody come back and say, oh, well, he's okay.
We lost him.
But no verified proof of life has been shown. Now you have a senator from Maryland, Senator Chris Van Hollen. He put a thing out and was like, okay, if he's not back here by the middle of the week, I'm going to go to El Salvador myself and check to see if he's okay and to see if I could facilitate him getting back here. And he went. He went. So I found the video to where Senator Van Hollen was talking about him going, and then I found the video of him being there today and what he reported. So I'm gonna play the first one, and then I'm gonna double back into the second one, and then we'll jump into it.
I think you announced today that you're going to be going to El Salvador. You had said earlier in the week you're going to try to talk to President Bukele. Failing that, you would go to El Salvador. Tell me what your plan is here.
Well, Chris, you laid out the stakes very clearly, both for the country in terms of the Trump attack on freedom and in the case of Kilmar, who is Exhibit A of a bully trying to start by picking on the most vulnerable. So I promised that his wife and his family that I would do everything I could 24/7 to try to bring him home. And that's why I am going to El Salvador. Two reasons. One is to try to talk to government officials about his release. This is a person who the Trump administration conceded had been erroneously abducted and sent to the prison in El Salvador, and to see about how he's doing, what his personal welfare is, if I will be allowed to see him. But my view is, Chris, that we need to keep a spotlight on this injustice for both for Kilmar and his family, but for all the other reasons you outlined in your opening statement. Now, the courts of the United States have said there's no evidence to support the charge that he's part of MS-13. So I asked the vice president whether or not El Salvador has any evidence that he's part of MS-13 or has committed a crime. So I asked the vice president if Abrego Garcia has not committed a crime, and the U.S. courts have found that he was illegally taken from the United States, and the government of El Salvador has no evidence that he was part of MS-13, why is El Salvador continuing to hold him in CCOT? And his answer was that the Trump administration is paying El Salvador, the government of El Salvador, to keep him at CCOT. And I pointed out that neither the government of El Salvador nor the Trump administration has presented evidence to support the claim that he's committed any kind of criminal acts. And so why not release Abrego Garcia today? And he said what President Bukele said the other day at the White House, which that El Salvador can't smuggle Mr. Abrego Garcia into the United States. And I said, I'm not asking him to smuggle Mr. Abrego Garcia into the United States. I'm simply asking him to open the door of CCOT and let this innocent man walk out. And I pointed out that the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, has said that the United States would send a plane to El Salvador to pick him up. And why did she do that? Because the Supreme Court of the United States, in a ruling of 9-0, has said that the Trump administration has to facilitate his return to the United States. Now, there's no evidence that the Trump administration is complying with that order. There's no evidence that they're complying with that order. In fact, the United States Embassy here has told me they've received no direction from the Trump administration to help facilitate his release. So the Trump administration is clearly in violation of American court orders. But that still leaves the question, why is the government of El Salvador continuing to imprison a man where they have no evidence he's committed any crime, and they've not been provided any evidence from the United States that he's committed a crime?
Okay, so one thing, I don't know if it seemed like he was at the embassy over there in El Salvador. I don't know where that was. But I did hear him speak about the vice president, and something real quick. Senator Van Hollen denied meeting in El Salvador with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, man mistakenly deported from the U.S. During the first day of his trip to El Salvador, Maryland, which is today, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen was denied a meeting or phone call with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man who was mistakenly deported to that country. Van Hollen was able to meet with the vice president of El Salvador, however. His case has sparked a series of court proceedings, of course, blah, blah, blah. Something that I thought was very interesting is that, he went out of his way extremely, and I believe it not because of human life or human decency, but for his own political campaign. But that's besides the point. I'm still actually surprised that homeboy actually got up to the vice president to speak to. Now, the one thing that I did want to bring up on that is that conversation, apparently. Let's see if I can even find it quickly enough. I don't know if I will be able to. But nonetheless, basically, he was asking, well, I'd like to be able to see the guy. And they're like, well, we need a little bit more of a heads up than this. You can't just fly here and see the guy. And then he goes, well, I'll come back in a week. He goes, well, I'm not promising shit. That's basically what happened there.
See, now that right there leads to question as to whether this man is even still alive. Because even if you was trying to pacify, you would still show proof of life. Now, even with it being a sudden visit, I'm pretty sure that somebody that's watching has been in jail, and the process. They go in, they get them, they sit them in there. You have your conversation, whatever, whether it's behind the glass or face to face. Then you can go back and say, okay, I personally seen him. He's okay. But when you start getting, well, you came too soon and you may be able to see him, you may be not, that's suspect as hell. That tells you right there that there's some other bullshit that's going on with that. Now, whether this was a political stunt or whatever, now mind you, he is the senator of Maryland. So of course he getting phone call after phone call after phone call about this. So of course he gonna have to stand up and do something. He can't just sit on his hands and do nothing. That's his state. So he's gonna have to do something. But being the fact that they kind of trolled around that and wouldn't even let him see the man to even show that, okay, here he is. Say your name. Let somebody actually look at him and look at a picture and be like, okay, yeah, that's him. To verify that this man is okay. That's a problem. That's a whole problem. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they didn't already done something to this guy. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Being the fact that they sitting there in that prison and now everybody in that prison know, like, okay, why come they doing all this for you? Are they trying to hurry up and get you up out of here, but we up in here? You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. Now you talking about, on the flip side of that you talking to this president about building some more prisons over there so that you can send actual American citizens over there. Now, that's bullshit too. When does that happen? Now, mind you, we got Guantanamo Bay. Okay, we got that. But when was we actually sending, American citizens over there to chill out? When did we started like, gathering up prisoners, sending them to other countries and paying them, $6, $7, $8 million a year to keep them? That don't make sense. Now, being the fact that we going through this terrorist thing, let me talk about this. Now, MS-13 was deemed as a terrorist. Okay. Those of you that's watching, that's in motorcycle clubs, especially the ones that's in 1% of clubs, you're considered domestic terrorists, whether you know it or not. Trust me on that.
It's true.
Okay. From one to another, you are listed as a domestic terrorist. Now, if somebody goes and they run your name, this nice little yellow sign pops up and it says, from the order of Homeland Security, this person is considered a domestic terrorist in the United States of America. Nice little yellow box that pops up. Now, that's true. That's happened. I can speak on it for that reason. Okay? So, back when we were talking about back a few months ago, when we was talking about the whole TikTok bill and how they were added all the extra stuff on the back end of
for
it.
the Restrict Act.
Right. That was one of the extras that they put in there, was that the president had the sole right to determine anyone as a terrorist. So, meaning you could pick up every club, every 1% club member in the United States and call them terrorists and ship them up out of here based on what you're talking about here. You know what I mean? So when you're thinking about this, you can't just think about it one-sided, like, okay, this man here, he came here when he was 15 years old illegally. Now, bullshit, because there was other things that was done there. You got to think about the end game here. The end game is that the reason why he was kept there is because they're saying that he's a terrorist. It's that word, excuse me, it's that word that's been said. Just like back in the summer of last year when you heard them talking about gang, motorcycle gang this, gang that. Every time TV came on, was gang on something.
They would do a lot better if they wouldn't use that nomenclature regarding the whole terrorist thing. I think that the better fight is exactly what people have said, is regarding his citizenship, right? How would a U.S. Well, hold on. Let me find what, because I did start it. Yeah, he is an El Salvadorian citizen, so why would that country give him back? You know, he did have multiple chances, and this is the case that I guess that if I were in the administration, this is what I would present, not that he's a terrorist, because there isn't any solid foundation or evidence on that. But to go, you know, listen up, you know, kind of thing. He is here illegally, you know. We gave him years to go ahead and do his asylum shit or whatever the case, whatever the nomenclature is for the thing that he got or was going to get, and didn't do it, didn't file for himself. So at that point, that's where I'd go, well, that's on you. You know what I mean?
Well, based on what I got on here, a part of the order that he had received from immigration, he had to make frequent appearances to ICE and the immigration courts.
I saw that.
Which he done. So it wasn't like he was hiding.
He was reporting to
them.
him.
What I mean? Right. He was doing everything that he was supposed to be doing. Now, even if El Salvador decided like, no, we don't want to give him back. Okay. But you don't got to keep him in prison either. You could just let him go. That's the point that we keep trying to make here. He didn't do anything to go to prison. If you was going to deport him back, he would deport back and go back into society, not prison. That's the problem. So everybody who gets deported don't go to jail. They take your ass, they land, they open the doors, and your ass get out. They take off again.
Yeah, it's up to their government to decide if they're going to put him in jail or not. Right.
I mean, but most of them ain't, because most of them let them go. You know what I mean? Like I said, just like Venezuela. You didn't take all them Venezuelans, MS-13 members back to Venezuela and drop them off. You took them to El Salvador and dropped them off. And packed them up in there.
That's very true, Imperius, but there is no evidence that he was affiliated and or a part of MS-13 at all. It was a confidential informant that stated that his clothing was related to MS-13, which is not enough evidence. And it's only one particular informant that is saying it. So there is no, he was never arrested, put on gang file. He was never put on any type of watch list on that aspect. And so I can't argue that part. If he was, then that's a different conversation, but he's not.
Mm-hmm. Now, you know, they have, I know, like dealing with like I did a lot of research on this when we were dealing with like clubs and stuff like that. And they were going through different areas like Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that. They were getting everybody's pictures, right? And they were putting those pictures up and making these photo arrays to where in each particular area they knew who was in those areas. So if something came about, they pulled this out, like, okay, look at this and pick out who it was, because they knew everybody that was on there, right? So it was easier for them to pick out who was who. But they could look at the picture and be like, okay, he was there, he was there, he was the one that did it, he was over there with him, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And put it all out there. You know what I mean? So, like I said, if it was dealing with the actual court system that he had done something wrong, then it would have been the courts that said, okay, this is what we're going to do. You did XYZ. We're going to withdraw the withholding order from you, and we're sending you back. Right now, you're going to be up under the custody of ICE, and ICE is going to deport you back to your country momentarily and send him on his way, if that was the case. But you got wrapped up into this whole terrorist thing where he's a part of this club that you cannot prove, and you still have not proven that this man was involved with that. And you got him sitting in prison. Mind you, he'd never been to prison, never been in trouble, other than the fact of, him and his old lady getting into it, which that was dismissed. You got him sitting in prison. Now everybody's talking about this. So you're sitting in prison, everybody talking about this, and your name is spreaded around the world, and they all looking at you like, oh, so you a big deal. Oh, they want you, huh? You see what I mean? So you just made this worse because you didn't provide him no kind of protection. You didn't put him in police custody or anything like that to keep the man safe. And then being the fact that you're sitting here when the senator shows up there and you say, oh, well, you didn't give us enough notice for us to get him ready. And if you, okay, so what about next week? Well, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know whether you're going to be able to see him then either. You bullshitting. You bullshitting. Okay, so what's going to happen if something actually went wrong and something happened to this guy? Then what? You know what I mean? Who going to wear that blood on their hands? You know what I mean? Because they're going to sit right there and they're going to be like, oh, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. Now, we're talking about this one guy, but they making plans to actually send actual Americans out of the country. What are we doing? I mean, put the political shit away. What are we doing? Have we been doing that? No. So what are we doing? Anybody? Aaron? Mike?
Have an
What are
answer
we
on
doing?
that one.
That's a problem.
Unfortunate situation.
What if they come to you, Mike, and say, okay, based on the fact that you in that club,
Sure.
you are considered a domestic terrorist. Come with me, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And before your mom and dad could get up here to find out what's going on, you on a plane going to.
Well, luckily
going to El Salvador.
luckily I was born here. You can take me to prison.
No, I'm saying,
You know what I
because
mean?
that's
You
what-
can take me to
that's
prison all
one
day
of the things they're
long.
talking about. I'm saying
Right.
because that's one of the things that they're talking about.
I get it.
So let's just say that happened. Okay, God forbid, but let's just say that happened. By the time your mom and dad figured out who it was that they need to talk to get something going, and then they'd be like, "Oops, he already in Louisiana on the plane. He gone.
He gone. See ya.
Now what? Now what? What did you do? Nothing.
Right.
What was you convicted of? Nothing.
Nothing. Right.
Would you go to court for? Nothing. You see what I'm saying? You see how
Totally.
easy that can be? That can be fucked up.
Totally.
How easy
I
that
agree.
At the snap of a finger, how that could be fucked up, how your whole life could change in a snap of a finger simply because it was something, you know what I mean? Because somebody else said, okay, well, you know, this group of people are this. And is this your name? Yeah, that's you. Okay, come with me. Because ain't nobody going to court here. They just packing them up and shipping them. Nobody's going to court. Nobody's getting due process.
Well, if you're
Nobody's
here
seeing a
illegally,
judge.
theoretically, if you're here illegally, you have no due process.
Well, I'm saying he wasn't here. He wasn't here illegally. He got paperwork.
Does he have paperwork? I
Yeah.
mean, I know that he came here and legally you can come here as a minor and get in, but then they give you a grace period of like, okay, when you're you got to file. And he had all this time, years and years and years and years to file, and dude never filed to become legal.
Right. Like I said, when he came in when he was 15, and then 2011, and in 19, when he went to the judge, they gave him permanent legal protection, which means they can't do nothing to him. He can go to work. He can do everything he's supposed to do. He even paid fucking taxes. You can do all of that as long as you follow the guidelines. Report to ICE, report to the immigration courts. As long as you do what they ask you to do, you're fine. And that's what the man was doing. But what about these other people, though, that's been picked up? Or these other people that got the letters, they got the 7-day notices that they got to get the hell on. You know what I mean? Or they're going to pick you up. Because it was a whole lot of them. A lot of them were students that had 7 days to, pack it up and get the hell on up out of here. Or we're going to pick you up. Now, when they pick them up, where are they going? They ain't going to jail. They just going to send them back to their country. So if you don't have nothing on the man, you don't have no criminal record on him, you don't have no proof that this man was involved with any of this shit that you're talking about right now. Number one, stop putting him out to be that. That's exactly what they're doing. They coming out there talking about, he's in the gang and he's a terrorist. No, he's not, because you can't fucking prove it. Stop saying it. You know what I mean? That makes an ass out of you and everybody else is sitting there standing beside you because you can't prove the shit. Let the man go. If you don't want to send him back, you don't want to send a plane to go get him, at least let him go. That's the key word. Let him go. Because he's not a criminal. Let him go. That's all I'm going to hit with it. You got anything, Aaron?
No. But I am going to say that if you're part of any organization that's deemed to be a terrorist, you're going straight to Guantanamo Bay. And like I said, on February 6, 2025, under that public notice 12675, MS-13 and other similar organizations were all named to be foreign terrorist organizations. So you lose habeas corpus. You're not going to get your day in court. You're going to Guantanamo. And I'll stop there.
They ain't get to Guantanamo. They kept right on going. They went right on past that shit.
They said, see ya.
They ain't even get there. Hell, they ain't even get to Venezuela.
It's cheaper to house you over here. You know what I mean? It's just cheaper. So.
Well, being the fact that you're paying them $6 million to do it, sure they gonna do it. Since we talking about cutting money, and that this is a good way to save money if we put these prisons in other countries and pay them to do it. Okay, it's gonna cut down on money.
Well, look how Australia started. You know what I mean? Send them off to the island. Just trying to make light.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's bullshit. But I think they need to. That's like when we were just talking about a few weeks ago when we was talking about the whole signal deal. Just admit your ass was wrong and fix the situation. You know what I mean? You got you had the president there. You could have said, listen, man, we fucked that up. go and get him up out of there. You know what I mean? I'm gonna still keep my deal with you. Just go and get his ass up out of here. You know what I mean? We grabbed the wrong one. Be it at that. You know what I mean? Admit your damn fault, but you're gonna sit here just like they did with Signal and just keep on lying about the shit, knowing that you busted. Just keep on lying about it. You know what I mean? Face the fucking facts and let it be at that. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody gonna lie to me, don't just deliberately lie to me. You know what I mean? Don't lie to me to the point that I know you lying to.
Right. Like dice it up a little bit.
You're right. Make your lie count for something.
Right.
Don't just hold on to the lie because, you know what I mean, even though you got caught, you're just gonna hold on to the fucking lie. You know what I mean? Fix the shit. All they gotta do is just open the damn gate and let the man out. If he's still there. And that's the problem. That's the whole thing right there. I hate to say it, but that's the whole thing right there. That's why this whole little cat and mouse shit going on. Something else that went on there they ain't about to talk about.
Yeah, this one's a lame situation all the way around, you know, and truthfully, it's a hard situation for the Trump administration to lay their hat on this one. You know, they did say, hey, well, even Pam Bondi came out and said, yeah, you know, if they want to release them, then we'll take them back. And we know how that went, right?
Right. See, well, that's what you're telling us.
Right. That's true.
But you know that could easily be fixed. With just them two just sitting there and like, hey, man, let him go. We're going to do X, Y, Z.
Well, everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. Everything. You're right.
Easily. Especially being the fact that they getting money from us like everybody else. Real easy to work something out. But like I said, we're gonna keep following up on this and see what the next event's gonna be. You know what I mean? I pray that everything works out for them, that this man comes back well and not hurt in any way, which I mean, it's kind of hard to think, but I pray that that everything works out for them. But we'll keep tabs on it, and then we'll update it as we see things that pop up on another show. But like I said, thanks everyone for coming out once again. Like I said, before you leave, like, follow, share, subscribe. You ones on my side, go on Mike's side, hit the like button, vice versa. That's what keeps the bills paid. That's what keeps us all here to be able to put these shows out to you every week. Thank you ones that came in that contribute to the show on both ends. Like I said, there's a lot of work that goes into these shows. I mean, there's a lot of lost sleep, a lot of lost time. You know what I mean? It's many hours that we sit behind this chair,
researching
computer screens, researching and getting this stuff out there that we're able to put these shows on every week. Like I said, 7 days is not enough time with all the information that we put out there, because I think probably by far we probably put out a lot more information than a lot of these ones that I'll be watching. You know what I mean?
True.
Based on stuff that we be putting out there. So it's a lot of dedication, a lot of time spent, a lot of time wasted. You know what I mean? So when y'all watching these shows, I hope you really appreciate the fact of the work that we put into these shows every week. But like I said, appreciate each of you for coming out, and we'll have another show for you next week. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, again, I just want to warn people, these tariffs, or at least the trade war with China, is going to get serious. And I know that last Thursday, all the clothing stores that were small manufacturers in China shut down. And then on Friday, the major clothing manufacturers shut down. We have unemployment insurance here for the layoffs that's going to occur here. They've got nothing over there. And when it comes down to a case of wills, who can outlast the other is going to win this trade war. And I hope it's us, because the losers' economy is going to be wrecked. So right now, while your money can stretch, I'd be stocking. Don't get caught short, because when the price doubles or goes up for a period of time, if you're bobbing in the water now, you'll sink, or you're going to swim, one or the other. So get out there and get in front of this and make your money count. And I'll leave it at that.
With that being said, this conversation, I think all of this, whether people get in their emotions or not, is irrelevant, right? I think that these conversations are well needed on each side of the equation, right? I think being able to have these conversations is exactly how we end up finding out and digging and having people actually know the facts rather than feelings. I think that is a fantastic way to go ahead and be transparent with everybody, is just lay out the facts. Listen, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Make sure you guys hit that like button on both sides. If you guys are on my side, make sure you guys go over to Archbishop, subscribe to him and hit that like button as well. And if you guys are on my side, man, we're going to be rating our buddy Tom Foolery. So stick around for our lefty homies over there. He's a great dude. So make sure you guys show a little love over there. I always appreciate all of you guys in your engagement, you guys participating. This is exactly how this show is done, man. And very honored with that. So with that being said, go ahead.
And before you close out, we got the we counted up the votes from tonight and on the Facebook Diamond Effect page. And we're gonna play number 1 as our winner for the night. So like I said, if anybody else got some ideas, they want to put it in, they want to make a intro for it to be submitted to go against this one here, you got our information, shoot it to us, and we'll give you the information as to what to do. So are you done, Mike?
Yes, sir. Much love and respect to you guys, man. Thank you guys.
All righty. Peace out, people. I want to know, because that don't make sense. Why would you do it to your friends and not them two right there? But when we talking about this, we got to put it all out there. This time. What up, though?